Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome back to the best place on this beautiful earth to talk about movies. If you find yourself just like keeping it this deep, dark secret to yourself that you actually pay for the paid version of Letterboxd and just would never ever admit that to anybody, and you wouldn't even admit it to your diary, well, me too. I've never admitted that out loud. Maybe I pay for Letterboxd, maybe you do too. It's a neat way to track stuff. I like the app. I don't understand the hate. So yes, if you pay for Letterboxd here, please join me because I wouldn't judge you for that. It's a little stupid, but I do it too. So welcome you Letterboxd paid users here. But today we're going to be doing another movie review here, so let's just hop right into it. Today we're going to be reviewing and discussing the movie Final Destination 3, which came out in 2006. Director for Final Destination 3, we got our boy back, James Wong. For writers, we got Glenn Morgan and James Wong. I believe they also wrote the first Final Destination, so both of them are coming back here for this third installment. Starring in this movie, we got Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Ryan Merriman. So for Final Destination 3, the story follows a high school senior, Wendy, and her premonition of a deadly roller coaster ride helps to save her life and a lucky few. However, death is still following and seeking out those who escape their fate. As we hop into the review for Final Destination 3, we've been sticking with our beautiful Final Destination franchise here as we're leading up to Final Destination Bloodlines, which comes out in May. So I'm going to be reviewing all of these movies leading up to that one. And like I've been saying in my other couple of reviews here, these Final Destination movies were one of the first horror thriller franchise movies that I really delved into. However, it's been like really exciting revisiting these because I pretty much only remember like all of the openings, maybe a couple of the deaths, but it's one of those franchises where it's all so similar that it all just kind of like bleeds into each other. So it's been fun revisiting these just because like it's almost like I'm watching them for the very first time again. So, and also here, while I was researching, writing my notes for this movie, I actually found out for this third movie, there's actually a special edition DVD that came out called the Thrill Ride Edition, which it also included a feature on that DVD where you could kind of choose the character's fates. So it acted as like a interactive film, allowing people to make decisions at specific points, which altered the course of the story. So I never really seen that special edition, but it reminded me of Bandersnatch, which came out a couple of years ago on Netflix, kind of an interactive game that was also a movie. So this seemed like it was one of the first kind of movies to do something like that. So I'm really interested. I'm going to try to find that and kind of play it and watch it. So I'm not going to be talking about that special version of the movie. I just thought it was really neat because there's really not a lot of media or movies that try to do something like that. So yeah, let's delve into the review section of the movie, starting with the positives or just the things that I really enjoyed about Final Destination 3. First here, I really love the opening and the location that this movie takes place in, this small town amusement park. Again, these Final Destination movies always have opening kill scenes where they're very relatable and almost in locations that pretty much everybody on Earth has been in before. So again, like we've been talking about, these Final Destination movies do a great job of having freak accidents happen, but they're freak accidents that really could happen in real life, and they're always like relatable scenarios. So I'm assuming you or anybody else here watching has been in an amusement park before and has been terrified of something going wrong in the amusement park. So it's cool seeing that these movies always try to use those relatable experiences and throw death into them. And speaking of that, I really enjoyed the tone of the movie, and you also get the tone pretty much introduced to you right in the beginning. It felt like it really leaned more into that over-the-top tone, more self-aware, and just didn't take itself so seriously compared to our other entries here. I feel like they kind of leaned into its like goofy premise, and you get a lot of that just with the character introductions of everyone kind of like hamming it up a little bit. It just seems a little bit more lighthearted, which I kind of enjoyed from this movie as well. I feel like it showcases this early on in the amusement park. For example, you have the two stereotypical hot girls with Ashley and Ashlyn that are very over the top. Those stereotypical like hot mean girls pretty much. You have the creepy pervy guy that almost reminded me of a perverted Dewey character from Scream as well. I believe his name is Frankie in this movie. And then you also have the stereotypical goth couple with Ian and Aaron. So it kind of leans into that early 2000s charm, and just none of these characters are all serious. They're all kind of very stereotypical versions of these characters, which I did enjoy. I think it's self-aware, and it kind of makes it a little bit more just fun and enjoyable. So I really appreciated that right in the beginning here. Next here, I think you can immediately tell that James Wong came back to direct this movie, because I think there's some amazing build-up to these death scenes here, especially with that opening roller coaster scene. I think James Wong does a great job at building tension throughout, and also just having our characters and scenes build up to these death scenes, but over multiple scenes. Especially when we get into Final Destination 4, it just kind of like has a scene set up and then death plays out, but with this one, you're kind of almost like guessing what's going to go wrong. It's built up through multiple scenes, so you could tell it's culminating to something, and I think you get that here. With the roller coaster, it's a whole segment of the movie where small weird things are going on leading up to them going into the roller coaster, almost very similar to how they did it in the very first scene of the first one, where a bunch of weird things are going on in the airport, and it's leading up to that, building that tension. I think they do the same exact thing here in the carnival section, leading up to that roller coaster scene as well. And let's just talk about the opening roller coaster premonition scene. It's honestly amazing. It's one of my favorites here, despite a couple scenes looking like cheap green screen bad effects. I thought the rest of it held up and leads into that relatable fear, because everyone going on a roller coaster in the back of their head, I imagine, is like, well, shit, like what if this thing breaks or I fall off of this? And you get to kind of see that horrific event play out here. And again, when I was looking into this movie here, they actually, with that roller coaster scene, it took about 2 weeks to film, and all the cast members had to ride the roller coaster over 60 times. So I couldn't imagine doing that. I'm not a big fan of amusement parks just because they're a little scary and they just make me sick. So I couldn't imagine riding a roller coaster over 60 times when just trying to film this scene. So again, even though some of it doesn't hold up all that well, it's cool that they did this mostly practical and actually film them on the ride here. And speaking of that, I think this movie adds a lot of weight in its opening scene, because they actually have some balls and add a lot to our character of Wendy when her boyfriend Jason actually dies in the opening. Like, Wendy gets off, her boyfriend Jason stays on, and it plays out and he actually dies. So it's actually a way to feel some weight to these death scenes, feel some weight to our opening, and also gives us some nice character development to our main character of Wendy here. And speaking of Wendy, I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead is really great in this movie, and easily the best actress that this franchise has ever seen. So she can actually pull off some of these more cheesy dialogue lines or just cheesy over-the-top premises. She adds something to this movie, and I enjoy seeing this actress here. And she gets some better development here than some of our other installments, and it helps that she's a very talented actress here as well. And jumping into more of the death scenes here, I think not only with the opening, but just all the deaths throughout, again, tap into that everyday life fear that make things a little bit scarier now. Like they use things that you might not do every single day, but you've probably done or are going to do at one point in your life. And I think just James Wan is a very talented filmmaker here, and he really elevates the material in this third movie here. So for example, that tanning bed scene is amazing and horrifying at the same time. I think they have one of the worst and most painful ways to go in this franchise in that tanning bed scene. And I really like the build up where you have the girl drinking that slushy drink I think she has. She puts it down on the table, and then they're complaining that it's cold in the room, so they turn up the heat, and then over the course of a couple scenes it's causing that slushy to melt, and then the melting liquid is going down onto the power system in the tanning bed booth scene, which causes it to raise the temperature in the room even further, and then causes the tanning beds to do what they have to do and kill these people. So again, just a really horrifying scene. It's built up well with all these small things going wrong in the room, leading to our characters' deaths as well here. It's a beautiful scene, honestly, with one of the most amazing transitions I've ever seen in my life, where you got the two tanning beds just burst into flame and our characters roasting there, and you get this nice overhead shot of the tanning booth beds next to each other, and then it transitions hard right to the same shot of their caskets, though, leading in the same direction that the tanning beds were in as well here. So beautiful transition there. I feel like that transition already raises this another half star pretty much. I'll put a clip of it here. I'm sure you've seen it, but beautiful transition. Again, just showing James Wan here as being a talented filmmaker, kind of planning out this movie here. Again, with this movie, just kind of leading into that more fun, over-the-top tone, I think there is just some funny scenes in this movie that I really can't tell if it's just because it's trying to be a little bit more self-aware and just goofy. I can't tell if it's intentional or not, but I find them pretty funny here, so I think it has a nice sense of humor here. For example, Frankie, that creepo guy, is trying to kiss Wendy at the funeral of those two girls, and it's just a funny scene where he completely misreads her character and the environment that they're in that I thought was pretty funny. And then there's also a hilarious scene that I don't think was supposed to be funny, but it is, when Wendy is asked about like fate and death, I think, at this funeral scene, and she instantly just whips out pictures of Abraham Lincoln and 9/11 and starts rambling about conspiracy theories and how all of this stuff is connected. I'll put a clip of it in here, but it's just so like out of the blue and crazy that it's just so funny, her delivery and how she just had these pictures on her. So it's just like that 2000s charm is just, there's really nothing like it. And I don't know, I found some of those scenes pretty funny here. And like we were talking about with the opening, not all of the effects hold up 100%. However, there's a lot of them that still use that practical effects that definitely the fourth one and a little bit of the fifth one kind of lost their way with. But like with Frankie's death in the drive-through scene, I think it's a really nice practical effect with the carnage and gore. And it has some pretty decent stunt work too, with the vehicles going off course and going crazy into the drive-through. Then you get that scene with Frankie and the engine is like lodged into Frankie's head that looks all practical. So I think there's a couple deaths here that hold up really well and just add to that fun nature, and you could tell they took some time with it as well here. And again here, speaking of the fun deaths, I think this movie specifically has just a lot of fun, over-the-top characters that leads into the fun and over-the-top deaths that just, even though the deaths are horrifying and horrifying situations, it never loses that tone and it's always just so fun. For example, the opening does a great job with that, but so does the gym scene where you have everyone like screaming in the gym. I think they're talking about a competing team that they all hate, and they're just like these over the top jock high school football player characters where they're all just like lifting weights and everything. I forget the character's name, but he's lifting the weights and then the weights kind of fall back and explode his head. And it's just such a fun over the top scene, and I love that this movie doesn't take itself seriously, and I feel like it kind of leans into like what these types of movies are. Like, we know what we're expecting, you know what we're here for, and it doesn't try to shy away from that. And also, like I was kind of touching on, I think this movie does a great job at building up to the death scenes, but also making you kind of guess which character is gonna die and then how the characters are actually gonna die. So I think the scene where it showcases this is the warehouse nail gun scene, where you got Ian and Aaron, our stereotypical goth couple here, where you're kind of expecting Ian to die. However, it's Aaron that is the one that actually ends up getting killed. So there's good misdirection here in all the scenes, like building up here, and you're trying to guess which character is going to die, how they're going to die, and then a couple scenes like this one, there's some good misdirection here. So it helps with the pacing. It makes everything a little bit more fun here and standing out on its own. Lastly here, we'll get into some of my negatives with the ending. However, I do want to say that train scene that this movie leaves off on is pretty cool and gnarly. It almost reminded me of the Omni-Man train scene in Invincible when he's holding his son through the train, just decimating everybody throughout that train there. But I think the train scene is cool. We'll get into my issues with it, but there's a couple just like gnarly things where a character's like sticking out a window of the train, and his body's just pretty much getting like sanded by the wall as the train's like zooming on by in the tracks here. So we'll get into my issues with it, but I think that scene alone could have been is a really cool scene, but I think it could have been used better as like an actual, like maybe in the middle of the movie here, or maybe even an opening too. I think an opening train scene would have been cool. Maybe we'll see it in Bloodlines, who knows. We'll talk about it then, but I do like that scene overall. But yes, let's jump into my negatives, or just the things that I didn't like all too much about this movie. First, I definitely miss the presence of Tony Todd in this movie and wish he made an appearance, especially because some more of the exposition heavy scenes are super cringy, and I feel like Tony Todd just delivers those so well. And I just don't get why he's not in this one, and we'll talk about it, but he's not in the fourth one either. For the life of me, I don't understand why you wouldn't have Tony Todd in this movie here. Again, here with a lot of these Final Destination movies, especially as we're getting into the third one, getting further into the franchise here, they just keep getting more convoluted and introducing lore without any real explanation. For example, in this movie, it introduces the aspect that all the pictures that Wendy took in the beginning at the carnival for some reason just show how people will die, which is a cool new detail. Just they never really tried to explain why this is a new thing, or why this new bit of lore is now, I guess, canon in this franchise. Like it's never introduced in the other two movies. I feel like all these movies just try to throw in something new, just see if it sticks here. And I think my issue with this too is it's really only like some of the pictures. It's not all of the pictures that you see where death could come for them. I think they get like confused and think one character's going to die because of a picture, but then they're like, oh shit, it's actually this character and this picture, but it's not that picture. That was just a picture. And I'm like, well, okay, so is it just some of the pictures? I mean, I guess it's some of the pictures. It's not all the pictures. So I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit nitpicky, but they introduce stuff, but just no explanation ever. And at this point in the franchise, I feel like I kind of find it annoying when some of these characters just don't listen to the characters that know what's going on. Like, for example, Aaron and Ian, our goth couple here, and that jock guy in the gym don't listen to Wendy and what she's trying to explain. And I feel like it's not that far-fetched for these other characters to kind of believe, like, okay, maybe something's actually going on, because everybody who got off the roller coaster has started dying in random, horrific ways. But then when Wendy's trying to tell our characters about this, they just all like tell her to fuck off and that she's crazy. It's like, okay, like, you don't need to believe me here that death is chasing us, but like, our friends have died, so like, hey, you might want to listen here. But all of them are just like, dude, you're crazy, bitch, get out of here, I ain't gonna die. And then they die. So it's just like a little annoying how none of them listen, even though there's a lot of proof to what Wendy is trying to say. And also with the lore getting convoluted, like, I don't understand how Ian died with the fireworks at the end if he was technically supposed to die in the warehouse scene but was intervened so his girlfriend Erin died. So I thought he was supposed to like be skipped over there. So it just like, again, like these movies sometimes don't follow their own rules when you're intervened and death kind of skips over you. Like, I thought you're supposed to be kind of safe. So then, like, I don't know if like someone gets intervened again that it might like roll back to that character. Like just talking about it out loud makes me so confused sometimes. So I just like, it's a cool scene with the fireworks. I guess I don't understand like how he died. I watched it a little bit ago, so I'm trying to remember. It's just like at this point it's a little hard to follow here. But yes, let's get into one of my bigger negatives is with the ending. I do not like the ending here. Again, it has a random ass 5-month time skip where all of our surviving characters just happen to be on the same exact New York City subway train at the same exact time in the same exact cart, which you could say, okay, it's death leading them all there. It's all part of the plan. Okay, fine. But then Wendy here gets another premonition out of nowhere with no explanation again, and then they all of a sudden can't get off the train, and then it goes bad, and presumably they all die here. Like, again, it just leaves me with so many questions. Like, first, I thought they avoided death and cheated it, so why did it come for them? Again, my similar issue that I had in the first one. Like, why did death wait 5 months? Why was there that time skip? And why didn't death come for them before if they truly never escaped it? What was death waiting for? And this scene just feels so shoehorned in, and like it cuts the movie off before it's like true climax. Like, they're really just, it felt like there was no like climax to the movie. They just kind of all escape it, but then they're like, oh wait, they're on this train. 5 months later, they thought they got away, but death was waiting for them here. It's just like what is the rules here with death? I'm so confused. And I'm just like, I'm hoping over time this ending doesn't bother me as much, because I get it. This is part of the franchise. This is what it does. Maybe it doesn't really need an explanation. Maybe ZakIsCinema is just being too harsh with it. But I hate how sudden it felt and how shoehorned it felt. Like, I know most of them end like this, but I don't know. I really enjoyed this third one, and I just felt like it deserved a better ending. And I think I've read somewhere that the original ending actually had like Wendy and maybe another character living. Didn't do too well with the test screening audiences, so they kind of changed it. And if that is true, you can really, really feel it with this one, because it feels shoehorned and it feels like reshoots, and it just soured my experience, because I was really loving it up until that part, because it felt like it was leading to something different, and then they're like, oh wait, we got to do our Final Destination thing here. Let's just do this scene real quick. So I'm like, just left me a little disappointed here, even though overall I really enjoyed the movie. But overall, when I was watching this movie, I really thought it was going to be one of my favorites out of the franchise so far because of its fun deaths, over-the-top tone, and great tension with James Wong's direction. However, the ending and more convoluted lore does hold it back for me from absolutely loving this movie and putting it at number 1. For my rating for this movie, I have it as the other two, that this is a movie I would like to own, but I would definitely only look to own it at a very discounted price, and then I'd be like, okay, I'll buy that for a couple bucks here. I don't mind owning that. So that's my rating for Final Destination 3 here. But you guys have my thoughts here on Final Destination 3. Let me know down below. What do you guys think of Final Destination 3? How does Final Destination 3 stack up to the rest of our franchise here? Let me know your personal ranking down below if you're looking forward to Final Destination Bloodlines here. And yeah, I hope you join us here on the rest of our beautiful Final Destination franchise movie reviews here. But thanks again. I appreciate so much anybody watching my videos here. So thanks for clicking on another ZakIsCinema movie review here. And yeah, that's about it here. So look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.